Well, even trying to summarize the amount of propaganda on both sides, to be fair, gets a little tiresome. Just a little tiresome. So I may be doing some damage by keeping things very simplistic, but I do realize some people are just totally baffled, and some people know the basics and want to move on to more advanced topics. So Tom essentially was a higher level executive in Scientology. He was featured in Going Clear and was able to witness a lot of the atrocities that Miscavige committed and spoke out against them. Jenna is basically the niece of Miscavige, and she left fairly young and spoke out against the cult. But again, did a few kind of local protests during the anonymous era, and basically took essentially a very long vacation. But a couple of years ago, reemerged and became allied to Aaron Smith 11. And to say that they've been peddling a narrative would be an understatement. So there are two things occurring. One is that Jenna keeps going back to her memories of growing up in Scientology, and there are many horrors. However, there's many cases here where you're like, this isn't adding up, or you're not making sense, or you're not being consistent. And trying to understand what Jenna's saying is, well, baffling. So I think this is the way it goes. It's not true, but this is how she wants us to interpret reality. One, she feels that she was horribly abused growing up. Okay, maybe, maybe not. But to date, as far as I know, she's had no lawsuit. Why not? She has the resource. So that's a little puzzling. Second of all, again, this is in the past, so I don't think she's clarifying this. She doesn't feel that she owes anyone in Scientology anything. Now, this is important because she's saying today, literally today, that it's obligatory to help these YZ victims. But before she was like, no, I don't owe those victims anything, including child victims. She doesn't owe them anything. That was her stance. The stance has seemingly changed to we have to help these victims. We are obligated to help the victims. And Jenna will speak for the victims. She's not just talking about herself. She will, quote, adopt the royal we. We will speak for these victims. Tom will not speak. I will speak, and you will follow. Uh huh. Now, you might think, how could you possibly argue against this? Well, there are several problems here. And again, I get it that this is a zombie kind of following she's amassed, like Reese and the others. So after a while, they're just going to keep repeating the propaganda, going in a full circle, just repeating the same thing over and over again, whether it's true or not. But I did notice one spark of truth, which was pretty astonishing, where someone brought up elderly, namely, well, what about the old people stuck in Scientology? What about some of the older members who are being exploited? And Jenna says, yeah, I really don't know too much about that. Right. So let's be very clear. We're not really speaking about the victims of Scientology. We're speaking about a certain section of victims that play into Jenna's narrative. And if you're not part of those victims, she really doesn't have time for you. So there you go. But it doesn't even fit in that category. So she's saying that her experience was one of the worst in Scientology. Okay, well, that can't be right. So let me give a counter case, which is kind of showing how this is all pretty much moronic nonsense. And again, I hate bringing up Kyle in this way because Kyle deserves respect. And Kyle is a real victim. He's not a phony victim like Jenna. So Kyle Brennan, again, allegedly, I have to say alleged a lot here, was allegedly murdered by the cult, allegedly murdered by Miscavige and David, and perhaps even Kyle's biological father. So call me crazy, but if someone murders an innocent child, an innocent kid, that is far worse than what? Physically restraining a kid from calling their parents. You can say they're both kinds of evil, but clearly one is far more evil than the other. Also, in terms of a jail sentence and actual criminal punishment, yeah, if you murder an innocent kid, you could get at least decades in jail, right? Physically restraining a child without their consent could also get you in jail, but it would have a limit. And also, too, the parents, Jenna says now on the record, she hates them. She doesn't like them. And the parents themselves were like, well, we don't really agree with you calling us all the time. We don't want to get called by you all the time. Stop calling us. So it's a slightly confusing narrative where Jenna is trying to show or tell the truth, And no more half lies. And the lie is we need to care about people like Jenna, the very privileged victims, but real victims like Kyle, who have been suppressed and repressed. We're not going to care about those. They don't matter. We're going to diminish their pain, which seems rather impossible. How could you claim to be worse than a murder victim? That murder victim is dead. That makes no sense. It does not add up. So the narrative in the past was to blame everything on Mike Rinder. And by the way, you can hate Mike Rinder. That's fine. But I would have to side with the Rinder people here for a second because looking at the Kyle case, right, Rinder did a lot to not help, right? Be very clear there. He didn't help Kyle case. But did he and OSA actively have a role here? I don't see it. I really don't. I don't see much evidence of it. I would assume he has some knowledge, but again, it doesn't seem like his role is very large. The main perpetrators appear to be Tom, Kyle's biological father, right, a Miscavige family member, and that family member's husband, David, and a few other high ranking officials, as well as the Clearwater Police. The main guilty parties are the Clearwater Police and these people in Scientology, who are indeed higher level executives. But Jenna doesn't care about those. They're not really the target or focus of her anger or energy. And you're like, uh-huh. Now, to be critical of Tom, as far as I understand it, they're trying to indict Miscavige on things they can attest to. Because there's a lot of victims of Miscavige where they can provide eyewitness testimony that, yes, he beat this person, he ordered this person to do this, he enslaved or imprisoned that person. Right? Now, we don't know if this does not include crimes against children. Maybe it does. So Jenna's just being preemptive that she should be given all the information and give her all the power. Well, I hate to tell Jenna this, but you don't matter here, okay? If you have an issue with Miscavige or Tom, get a lawyer, have a lawsuit, and have a good day. But in terms of the indict Miscavige movement, I have no issue with it, right? Now, if you think, well, they need to include these or those crimes, well, you can do that. Hire your own lawyer. There's nothing about exclusivity here. If you have the evidence against children that can be used against Miscavige, go ahead, right? But I have to be the painfully, at least somewhat honest person here, right? And dishonesty is just going to be the norm with SPTV. And dealing with them has to be dishonest because if you even try to tell them the truth, they're going to go bat crazy, crazy. That's just how they are. I am sure with the Kyle Brennan case that David Miscavige had a role in the cover up. But could I charge him with murder? I don't think so. Could I even charge him with murder conspiracy? Maybe. But I'd have to be honest and say, well, no, the main perpetrators might be these other people. Maybe David Miscavige was involved, but I don't think he's the main culprit. In terms of a criminal case, he would not be included, right? I mean, I get it. Jenna is angry and she wants money and power. I get all that, but she needs to get a legal dictionary. I would love for David Miscavige to go to jail for helping to murder Kyle. And maybe he might serve some criminal punishment here, but it would be small, right? Good or bad, the law is attuned to proportionality, right? So the proportion of the crime and how you participate matters. And good or bad, it seems like David Miscavige had a minor role in the Kyle Brennan case. But I still think the Kyle Brennan case is important. But from the Jenna Miscavige point of view, he doesn't matter. Was it going to help her? Is it going to make her look better? No, it makes her look terrible. It makes her look like a very selfish, narcissistic, power-hungry cult leader. So he doesn't want to talk about it. And that's the game being played. We're going to talk about Jenna and her victimization and victims she's going to pre-select. What about these other victims? What if similar crimes were committed against them? He doesn't care. She was literally attacking her brothers weeks ago and diminishing their pain, right? She brought up one brother who was subjected to interrogation by Serge Del Mar. And she was like, yeah, I guess that was bad, but I really don't care. I mean, who cares? Well, according to your own standard, that's a crime against a child. Should we not be concerned with that? And the answer is no, we should not be concerned with that. So we're not concerned with the crimes against children. We're not concerned with children at all. We're concerned with special band of victims. Jenna will allegedly speak for these victims and will give her more money and power. Okay? Because because she lies to us very well. Well, there you go. And once again, the wheel keeps turning. Okay, well, there we are. Well, if Jenna feels she was wronged by Tom, I really don't care. I really don't. If you think this is enough to rise to a legal dispute, get a lawyer. And there you go. Have a nice day. But really, her whining and crying about victimization about herself, but then what about other young victims? What about other underage victims? What about their pain? It depends. It depends. Does it meet the needs of the propaganda? If it helps the propaganda, they're going to talk about that. But if it doesn't help the propaganda, like Serge Delmar victimizing children, we're not going to talk about that. It doesn't exist. It never happened. Serge is good. Aaron is good. Jenna is good. It's a new theology. You have to understand how the gods work. And I guess Jenna can just overcome logic. When children are being hurt, she cries for them. When they're being hurt again, she doesn't cry for them because, well, those aren't the children I'm concerned with. I'm concerned with me. Nice. Thanks. But there are other child victims. There are other young victims. There are other underage victims. Maybe we should pay attention to them, because they're victims of murder. Oh, but those are the wrong kind of victims. So we're not going to talk about those victims. Those victims don't matter. They don't matter to the propaganda. So they don't matter. They don't exist. But they do exist, Jenna. Kyle really did get murdered. Alleged. You did not get murdered. That's a difference. Maybe pay attention to the basics.